Hey, hi.
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Am I audible, by the way? Sorry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm gonna just also put you in the. Oh, there it is. Yes. Hi, hi, hi.
Ah, yeah.
Good afternoon. Hope we are also live because sometimes it gives me some issues. I think we are live, hopefully.
Perfect.
Okay, so how do I say your name, Ina?
Ina, yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you so much, Ina, for doing this podcast with us. And I know we had to reschedule because of some reasons, which was supposed to happen last week. But thank you for being flexible in rescheduling and doing it for today. So, Ina, maybe we can start with your introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ina Tuomala and I am a sustainability communications strategist or a sustainability communicator, which is a little less of a mouthful. And what I actually do is I help all sorts of impact-driven organizations with sustainability and circular economy communications. And that often means translating all sorts of sort of complex circular and sustainability topics into more clear, engaging, more everyday communications for different audiences. And as a part of that mission, I've also recently founded Marketing Impact Studio, and my studio, as I like to call it, to continue that mission because we really build brands that matter, brands that have a deeper purpose beyond just making a profit.
Yeah,
And I think most of the people in my network still know me from previous role, which would be as a head of communications for the Nordic Circular Hotspot, which is a Nordic area's circular economy business cluster. So that's what I was doing before, and that's my sort of entry point into circular economy communications.
so you're liking it so far? How is it going?
It's amazing. It's such a challenge,
Yeah,
but it's so great because you really get to touch really deep into a lot of good brands' core purpose
yeah,
and help them because there's so many good people and good brands out there doing really good job and they just need that little extra push to turn that job into impact both for themselves but also for the bigger broader communities around them.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree with you because I was also having the similar discussion in the last podcast with Karen.
Mhm. Yeah.
And what she also emphasized is most of the times, these SMEs or small or medium scale
Mhm.
enterprises, they're already doing it.
Well,
It's
that's just
already,
it.
yeah, it's already in their existing process, existing workflow about sustainability, about many initiatives, how they can optimize
Mhm.
things, how they can create, communities and build these impacts. Maybe they're already doing it.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't know it. And the communication is something which is missing, right?
Absolutely. And it can really be that missing key. And it's so funny because I can choose a company based on the good sustainability work they do. And then I ask their salesperson a question about, for example, a material choice that I know they've made because of sustainability. But that person on the ground doesn't know it. They doesn't know that they're doing that good work because no one's told them that actually this is a really good selling point. It's a really good sustainable choice. So there's also that like education level in it, both internally in companies, but also within the communities.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And how is your own venture going? Impact Studio, is it?
Yes, Marketing Impact Studio,
Marketing
MI,
Impact
MI
Studio.
Studio, and like it's great. It's very early,
Yeah.
so it's
Are you doing
something
it
I
full
keep
time now?
reading.
Are you
Yes,
doing it full time? Okay.
yes, I'm now doing it full time, very newly from the start of this year. So about 4 months now, and it's amazing. But it's like every founder, I think I'm redefining it every day. I'm refinding the purpose every day in some slightly different ways. So if you ask me in a year, what is in my studio, it's probably going to be a different answer than it is today.
Yeah.
But the core purpose is the same. So no, it's amazing, but it is a challenge. Would I, from like a business perspective, encourage people to start an entirely sustainability-based business right now? I'm not sure.
No.
But I think that's why we need to do it. That's precisely why we have to do it. Why we
Yeah.
have to be brave and have these purpose-driven businesses right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's so interesting you mentioned this, especially about people starting it over or doing
Mhm.
into this. topic because
Hmm.
I've known many of my friends
Yeah.
mutual friends who have got into the domain of sustainability, like
Hmm.
building platforms for
Hmm.
reporting, for carbon footprint calculation,
Yeah.
and they've also raised funding for it.
Yeah.
And now the challenge is it's also become very difficult to justify the investments they have raised because right now the market is not that very stable, right?
Hmm.
And it's not
Absolutely.
really going well, if we have to put it
No,
in that way. Yeah.
and if we look at the statistics of where is the money going right now, it is
AI.
AI.
Yeah.
Like the answer is simple. That's where most of the VC funding especially is going, and it's very hard to compete with something like that. And when we
Yeah.
look at the level of funding that's available for clean tech or for sustainable solutions, it's so much smaller.
Yeah.
But there again, I think communication plays a huge role and marketing plays a huge role because these solutions aren't just solutions for sustainability, they're solutions for building better lives, for building better communities, and innovating better solutions for the future. And communication can help you find those angles that also attract your investors better.
Yeah.
Because then we also talk about the risk that linear companies, for example, carry. Like we have to talk about the cost of not being sustainable. And that risk can be mitigated in a lot of those sustainable solutions. So you need to talk about your strengths in a
Yeah.
way that your audience values.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are different aspects and different directions and different angles to look into, right? And coming back to your marketing impact studio,
Mhm.
um, so what are your offerings? Like,
Mhm.
is it a product you have where companies can use it like a SaaS application to use it for communication, or is it just that you work with the companies to build a communication strategy?
Mhm. So we work both as strategic advisors and as also on creative side. So also
Mm.
as creative producers, whether that be visual or written materials. So we have two sides there, and we work quite broadly across both brand building and communication, as well as some marketing. There are some product um, things in development that don't want to go into too deeply
No.
yet because they're still a little bit hush hush. But
Okay.
um, yes, right now we work as mainly strategic advisors and hands-on help. We can jump into, for example, fractional marketing roles because, as we talked about, the funding is often a little bit tight for these smaller sustainability companies and so on. So we can come in as part-time
Yeah.
marketing assistants, for example, if you don't want to hire a full-time CMO from the start, which is often not feasible.
No.
So there's also that type of solution that we offer. And then it's a lot about not just report writing, but it's a lot about report writing, but also translating reports, translating publications into campaigns, and gathering sort of that impact from the work that companies or organizations, also public organizations, do behind the scenes, and then helping them to get that out there
Yeah.
and engaging their stakeholders in that way. So it's a little bit of strategic, little bit of hands-on, but I would like to say we work quite broadly. As long as you are good on a good mission,
Yeah.
it's likely that there's something we can do for you.
No, definitely. And this communication is both internally, it's both internal and external, right? Internal
Yes.
within the organization and also external as well. How the
Yes.
brand wants to put their face outside in the market for
Yeah,
both consumers and
absolutely.
stakeholders.
Absolutely. And internally, what we do is often training based.
Mm.
So, for example, workshops or webinars or lunch and learn sessions or things like that on sustainability communications or on more sort of defined topics on,
Hmm.
for example, how to, brand an impact first company. What
Yeah.
does that look like when you build a brand or you build a marketing strategy that's not the typical, that's not the traditional focus on sales and KPIs, but it's to focus on your purpose
Yeah.
and your purpose as a brand. So we do that type of sort of translation workshops quite a lot as well.
But it's a very niche.
It is,
It
and
is a
I would
very
just say
niche
it is.
getting into the communication for
Mhm.
sustainability. Very niche, yeah,
It is,
market, and
and it's
also
very new.
topic. Yeah.
It is, and it's very new. Like if we look maybe even just 4 or 5 years back in time, you wouldn't
Mm.
know what a sustainability communicator is. That's
No.
not a thing. There were maybe 2 or 3 voices, in the whole market that defined it.
Yeah.
So it's
Or
very,
influencers
yes.
who has like a good presence out there in LinkedIn or social
Mhm.
media, who would call them as
Precisely.
a communicators for sustainability.
Yeah, yeah, precisely. So it's really like a new market. But right now, I'm getting direct messages on LinkedIn several times a week from like young people,
Hmm.
recent graduates who wanting to get into it, who want to
Yeah.
be sustainability communicators. And that makes me so happy because it means that there's people who want to do it.
Yeah.
And that that in itself means that it will be bigger, it will grow because there's people who want to make it their mission.
Agreed. Agreed. And maybe a little bit of your personal journey, how you
Mhm,
moved into this role. If you can
mhm.
share a little bit on that.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always been a bit of a writer, like
Sorry, bit of it.
a writer. Like
A
I've loved
writer. Okay.
writing things always, like from when I was a child. Like I have filled books and books and journals of stories and writing and things. Um, but I'm not a fiction writer. I'm not a story writer in that sense, in a fiction story way. So then after being done with university, um, I did a master's in research and then I got into research writing and sort of translating complex topics in academia into something that was more interesting that people wanted to read
Yeah.
instead of just, looking through the abstract and never going further. Um, and another thing that I don't talk so much about on my channels, but I'm also rock climber and mountaineer, and I've always had a really close relationship with these like wild landscapes
Mm.
and nature, and I wanted to work for that. I wanted to work for nature, and that brought me to sustainability. So then what do you do when you're a writer and you want to do something for sustainability? So I became a copywriter and I started writing articles and writing blog posts for companies and um, moving there into more and more strategic roles, content strategist, head of communications, all of these types of roles um, in more sustainability-led companies. But for me, it was always about bringing those two things together. The fact that I feel like there's a lot of influence in being a communicator, in being a writer, and the fact that I wanted to do something good that aligned with my own values because I was never going to be a marketer
No.
for, something that sells tons and tons of products into the market. I can't do that. It's just it feels so wrong to me to market something that I don't believe in. So it always had to be something that aligned with my own values as
Yeah.
well. So
But it's also
that's why I
tricky,
ended.
right? Because now you
Yeah.
have your own venture, and even though you are a content writer or a strategist for
Mhm.
communications on this topic, you still have to market your product out there. You
I
still need to
know,
outreach.
I
You
know,
still
but at
need to
least I
have,
believe in it.
yeah,
I think it's doing a fantastic job.
yeah,
But yeah, no, that's where I came into this, and then I had some really fantastic opportunities to work for really cool companies that worked with circular economy and that
mm,
worked with, sustainability in different ways in sort of consultancy fair sphere. And that really gave me then, I think, the courage to go and start something of my own
yeah,
because it is a little scary. It's not the done thing to go and start your own thing, especially here. Like I'm based in the Nordics, I'm based in Norway. And this is a very high living cost country. Most people want a steady 9 to 5 job
yes,
and the holidays and so on. It's like I know a few people that have really, taken their own things and go out there but I also know equally many who have done it and have gone back because it's not an environment where it's easy to do that.
no,
Um, so we'll see. you
But
know.
what was the trigger? I mean, you had a
Mhm.
stable, nice, comfortable, regular source of income coming there,
But the
very
sensible choice.
and then you also heard of stories there where people tried and they had to come back. I mean,
Mhm.
that's one story, maybe some, mental issues because, it is not an easy job to build a company, right?
Mhm.
But
No,
still
it's
you choose. Why?
well, that's a very good question. Um, Partially because it gives me the freedom to work with projects and, in so many different things. Like, I love the option, the opportunity to work with such a wide variety of
Yeah,
different things. And secondarily is also I'm in my mid 30s, I'm in a point in my life where I can make decisions that are a little bit risky,
yeah.
you know. There aren't like what if it fails? That's
What's the
not going
wrong
to
it
be
can
the end
happen?
of my world, like, then
Yeah,
I will have learned a lot and I will have tried something that I really, really wanted to try. And then I'll go back to into doing something more regular if it doesn't work. But it's, that risk is so worth it for me that it's, yeah, it's not a barrier.
no,
It's something I considered, but it's not something that would hold me back from making this choice because, now I can build something that really looks like me, that really feels like me, that um, is really fulfilling as a job. It's not the first time I'm freelancing. It's the first time I'm building a company, but it's not the
mm.
first time I'm bringing in my own income in that way.
Hmm.
I used to also freelance as a copywriter some years back, during the pandemic and so on. So in some ways, I know that like hustle culture, going out there and bringing in your own clients. Um, so no, I think it's two things there. One is that I feel like it brings so much value to my personal and professional life, and the second thing is that while there is risk, now is a time where I feel like I can take those risks in my life.
Yeah. And how long did it take for you to come to this conclusion that you want to take this risk and jump out there in the field?
I mean, I had thought about it a lot earlier already, but then the decision actually happened quite fast.
Mm.
Like I think it was in October last year that I actually decided that I was gonna do it. And by the time it was January, I was, ready to go public
Yeah,
with it. Like,
yeah,
I hadn't changed my mind, so then I just went with it.
yeah. No,
So
it's amazing. You're a person who is organized, structured. You're a quick decision maker, and the way you also talk, it feels like you're more in control. And I had my doubts when I wanted to have this podcast with you because
Mhm.
talking with a communication strategist for sustainability, because it's always tricky, right? Because you are good with words, you
Mhm.
are good with communication.
Mhm.
So I was also a bit nervous there, but yeah.
Yeah. Like, what is a communicator really? That's
Hmm.
that's
Let's
such
start from there. So what is
what is a
yeah.
yeah, what is it? A communicator is, I think, is a connection maker, whether that's bridges in how we take information and translate it for audiences, or whether it is in connecting, um, for example, a company's mission to how it touches their audience, but also a connection maker between people and between different stakeholders. I hate the word stakeholders, but I use it all the time because,
Yeah, you have
it's
to
just,
address them, right?
well, it is something that like I need a word for,
Yeah.
and that is the word I have. But that's also it means nothing.
No.
But connecting people who are invested in the topic in different ways. So I feel like communicators are, they are just that bridge between ideas and action, between people and, the people who need what they offer or want what they offer, and also companies and the results they want.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think is the biggest challenge out there right now for companies to put their story out?
If we talk about sort of sustainability stories, especially, obviously, I think there's probably three themes or three barriers that come up in conversations that I have all the time at the moment. And one of them is that sort of sustainability is being erased from conversations a lot. There is greenwashing.
Mm. What
There's
is
sort of
greenwashing? I know
it.
greenwashing.
Yeah, greenwashing is the opposite in some ways in that it's companies might be doing really good job, but they don't talk about it.
Mm.
It's being silent on purpose because you don't want to talk about your sustainability initiatives. Maybe you find that they're too risky, or you find that your audience maybe doesn't connect with them, or you perceive that there is this big pushback on ESG and it's not good maybe for you to talk about. And it's like quite a big thing currently
Oh,
um, for companies.
but I
Um,
thought it's the other way around, right?
yeah, you would think so. You would think so, wouldn't you? You'd think we'd be in a point where we can openly talk about sustainability, and that's always good.
And
But
that's what our consumers also wants to feel like because people would like to buy
precisely,
sustainable products.
precisely. And also, like, there's this really interesting statistics that I also posted on LinkedIn the other day that 53% of consumers will think silence means inaction or concealment. It means that over half of your audience will automatically think that you're doing something bad
Yeah,
if you don't talk about what you're doing. And
yeah,
that's a huge statistic. When you think
yeah,
about every second person just thinks you're doing, a really
yeah,
bad job if you don't say something. That that alone, I think, should be motivation for companies to go out there and talk. But it's not always the case. Like there's a lot of this sort of green hushing currently where sustainability just doesn't sell. And then
And
there's
when did
this,
this come
yeah,
into account, the green hushing? Is this something new, this wording or this concept or this mindset?
I would say the last 2, 3 years.
Okay.
Um, I don't know when the term was coined, but that's sort of when the concept has become more and more apparent. And there's movements against it now. There are, for example, Creatives of Climate, which is quite a big
Yeah.
community for sustainable communicators as well. Um, they talk against it a lot to try and make companies talk more boldly, more bravely about sustainability work because it's really important to not only do the work but also talk about it. Because when you don't talk about these things, the only thing that creates is a vacuum, and there are other opposing forces that are very, very happy to fill that
Yeah.
vacuum, and they speak loud, you know
Yeah.
the companies that actually have a good mission, they should be open to talk because if they don't, someone else will, and that gives a really like wrong mindset, wrong perception to people about what is the state of sustainability today.
Yeah. And
Mm.
all about this, the EU regulations, like,
Mhm.
for instance, I understand CSRD is for big companies, but there is still
Mhm.
voluntary for SMEs, right? Where they can
Mhm.
also do reporting, and there are also different frameworks like
Yes. Yeah.
EUDR, SFTR, CBAM,
Hmm.
and this list it's really vast. But their companies are really forced to do this reporting. I mean, in
Hmm.
few categories if they belong into certain criterias.
Hmm.
And what I also understand is when they're doing a reporting on certain topics, they also have to publish it in the
Yeah.
public domain. And for
Hmm.
me, it's in a way they're already sharing and communicating that to the public. Of course, it depends that if the public wants to really look in those reports or not, but that's already available in the public domain, right?
It is. It is. In many contexts, we don't consider annual statements or CSRD statements or these to be customer-facing communication, which I feel is wrong because they absolutely are. They are publicly available.
Yeah,
Um, and, you know, the investment that goes into sustainability reporting is huge.
yeah,
And I feel like there's so many missed opportunities in how companies do reporting often because they put so much time, so many hours of expert time into making the reports. And then it's, that you hit publish and then it's silence.
it's done.
That's it. It's gone.
Yeah, it was one of the checklist in the box and you done it and then you strike it off and it's done and then you move on. But
Precisely.
they don't talk about it, they don't
Mhm.
share about it, they don't
Mhm.
discuss about it.
And they don't even always aren't able to translate those reports into internal action either. So what I feel like the companies that are really good that work strategically with reporting, with sustainability reporting, how they treat the publication of the report is like halfway mark of the
Mm,
process. It's not the end result. It's just a halfway mark, and after that, you take that report and you put it into your operations, and you use it to make things more efficient, make things better, and you also use it for communications. You turn it into insights that engage your audience or your investors, um, or maybe the young talents that you want to recruit for your company. There's
yeah,
so many different ways you can take it, and you should take it because what other project do you do where you put so much money in and then you don't take the benefits out of it? You know,
yeah, yeah.
it's really fascinating to me. But there
But
are also companies that do it brilliantly. So I'm
mm,
not saying like there's no one that does it properly. It's just a little bit too often. There are
mm,
so many lost opportunities when it comes
agree,
to sustainability reporting.
agreed. And how do you convince them that we need to have a proper communication strategy within the organization so that you could have these all benefits if you do it properly?
Mhm.
Because they also need some tangible outcomes if they want to implement a program like this, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think in that ways it's often quite a lucky starting point because the willingness is often there. The willingness to use it well is often there. It's just maybe the knowledge how to do it isn't. So it's a lot
Mm,
about just informing about the opportunities, you know. Often it's enough to show that, okay, we have a report here. Um, we can now take it and do, this for your sales team. We can do this for your product team, this for R&D. And they won't take up all of your ideas, but some of those things will resonate with, where they are in their company right now, because the opportunities are so many. They're so multifaceted. So often it's just information, but it is also that sort of translation of the sustainability work into business language, you know? How can this drive our risk management? How can it make things more efficient? So we use these sort of tools to turn those sustainability outcomes or projects into the language that the decision makers already understand and value.
yeah,
Mhm. And I mean, like that's a bigger trend. That's a bigger trend across all sustainability communications and green tech marketing and everything right now, where we've started to talk a lot more about resilience. We've started to talk a lot more about risk management, efficiency, self-reliance, and all of these things. And I'm in such like two minds about it. Like I love it because it can really drive impact. But I also really want to talk to companies about still talking about climate, still talking about sustainability bravely,
mm,
instead of ending at a point where we sort of erase the whole sustainability from those sustainability initiatives, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
'Cause there's pros and cons to it, but in some ways it is a really good because it means sustainability is moving into, financial teams,
yeah,
into management teams. It's making it much more um, core part of businesses that didn't know they were doing sustainability work, despite maybe they were.
yeah.
So there's a lot happening, I feel like, in the like bigger trends of sustainability communication right now.
I agree.
And
And
then
which
Mhm,
industries uh, are you focused right now? Like which markets or which industries
mhm.
are you working
I
right now
mean,
with?
market-wise, I'm working largely within the Nordics with some connections in the UK, but I'm not very limited to industries.
Mm,
So I like working quite across silos and across industries, and I think that's my circular economy background, which is of course all about connecting,
yeah.
industries and breaking down the silos. So I like working across quite a wide variety of different
Yeah,
different.
and all the knowledge about
Mhm.
the processes within the company, it also takes quite some time for you to get up to speed to know the internal processes, right? Because that's when you have a proper story.
Yeah, it often does, but then. then you put that your little, writer's hat on or your journalist hat on, and you listen to the people in the companies who already have all of this information and knowledge, and you sort of distill the bits that are important for you from there because, you know, it is still sort of consultancy and advisor role. So you often come into new situations and new teams or new projects. And there's never that much time necessarily to get to know a company. And, I'm so new, I don't have like, long relationships with companies yet. I will surely
Yeah.
later. Right now, everything is new. So um, but that's something I also tell, all of those people who contact me about what is the most important skill for sustainability communicator. And I always tell them, for me, it is research. It is
Mm.
the fact that I have a little bit of research background that allows me to jump into these new situations and just take in all that information and be quite agile about what I um, do with that information and how I adapt it into different situations and so on. So I think you don't need to have a degree in sustainability communications to be a sustainability communicator, but you need to be a really good learner because
But,
things change all the time.
but is there like a real degree in this field?
There are
Sustainability
courses,
communication?
but
Course?
not
Not
the
an official
degree.
degree.
No,
No.
no. You can get different certifications in it, some
Mm.
quite long ones as
Yeah.
well, but you won't graduate as a sustainability communicator. At least I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe there is now, but I don't know of one.
Yeah.
So it's an evolving field.
No, definitely. And Ina,
Hmm.
you come from a research background, right?
Hmm.
And I definitely want to ask this question
Hmm.
because I'm not sure without or before AI tools or Gen AI, maybe it used to take quite some time for you to do cross-referencing different research, different papers, different articles, different
Hmm.
interviews. You need to consolidate them and
Yeah.
make your story or article, right?
Hmm.
Now, I think you don't have any scarcity in finding intelligence or information, right?
Hmm.
So it has become much accessible, more easier, and much faster
Hmm.
with the tools which are available right now. So how
Yeah.
do you see this going to, do you think this is going to be an impact for you or in general for people who would like to do actual research? Because how
That's a
do you
good
see this is going to
question.
change?
That's a good question, and that's sort of the same conversation we constantly have in the writing circles as well. Um, do things change? Yes, and I feel like people need to know and use the tools that are out there, but they need to use them to make their own work more efficient. I, as a researcher, I haven't found many AI tools that will help me with finding the insights, but they will help me to, you know, use large amounts of information much faster. So they are a tool that speeds things up, but they aren't necessarily something I personally have been able to find reliable enough to do that thinking for me yet, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah, I understand. And what are your favorite tools?
Um, I use a variety. I feel like I should be asking someone else that question because, now that I've started my own company, you wouldn't believe how many free trials of different tools I've done in the last 4 months. So don't
Yeah.
ask me, I'm not done yet. I'm working on that.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we're
We'll
all
get
there in the same boat. I mean,
Please
there is
someone tell
something
me what are
new.
the good tools.
There is something new, and we really want to make our hands dirty with that tool.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think looking at the time, Ina, I think we are 2 minutes past. Are there like any final remarks or suggestions, especially for the younger generation who would like to get into this field? I know that you've already shared quite some time, quite some things, but are there like any final suggestions from your end which you want to put out there?
I I told this to someone in a conversation last week actually, and I think I'm just gonna say the same thing. Like, go for it because the opportunities are huge. And especially when you're new and young and just starting your career, like, take the risks and do something that you really believe in because, it might turn out fantastic. It might be amazing. Like, just do it.
Wow.
That's the
Feels
first
like
step.
I'm talking to myself like 2 years ago.
Perfect.
Standing in front of the mirror and repeating the same mantra again and again.
Mhm.
Just do it. Go for it. What is the worst that can happen? You still have
Precisely.
age, you have energy, you can always come back and do 9 to 5 job.
Precisely. You are at the start of something amazing. Go for it.
Definitely. And thank you so much, Ina, for your valuable time and for sharing all these valuable insights in your work. And I wish you all success with your new venture and initiative. And hopefully we might work together in future. I don't know. But thank you so much again. And I wish you a nice day and also maybe a nice weekend.
Yes, thank you for having me, and you too have a very nice weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.